Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I have some pretty spiffy news for you. I don't use the word spiffy lightly. Actually, I never use this word, so this is something else. This is pretty terrific. A team of scientists at UC Berkeley have finally done it. They have created the first Star Trek-like replicator using a 3D printer that uses only light and synthetic resin to replicate objects that were previously scanned. So right now they can only actually create small objects using this specific resin, but this is just the beginning. What they were able to create, the first thing that they made was a miniature replica of the statue that was created by the great artist Rodin. The statue is called The Thinker. Pretty apt, I think. Pretty neat, right? I'm so excited. This is taken from nnn.com. This was about a month ago, and I just heard about it today. Corey Good had mentioned it in his tweeter feed. I don't know. Tweaker feed? No, that's something else entirely. Don't feed the tweakers. I'm just kidding. Anyway, you guys, I'm so excited about this because we are so close to being able to produce not only objects out of thin air, but food. This would solve starvation problems all over the world. It would stop the use of money, because after everybody has a replicator, what good is money? We don't really need it anymore. Even landlords, why would they collect money on an apartment because they're going to just spend it on food and objects that now they can recreate in their replicator. So it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. All of this replicator technology is made possible when scientists started to look at Einstein's famous equation, according to the article. It's the most famous equation, actually, in the whole history of physics. E equals mc squared. This equation essentially tells us that matter is just another form of energy. Obviously, we know matter cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only transform. It can only be transformed. This is why we cannot, using quantum mechanics and physics principles, we cannot ever die. Because we are energy. Inside our physical bodies, we are energy. While the physical body will transform into another thing, our souls are always going to remain. We just change form. We go somewhere else. So basically, though, the replicator technology is conceivable because any material object could both be broken down into pure energy and created out of pure energy. So it's basically just changing the format. You know, a group of molecules cohesively close together, making a solid or seemingly solid object, or a group of molecules completely dispersed. Now, the idea of being able to materialize any object out of thin air, as they say in the article, as the metaphor suggests, it is a bit tougher to wrap one's mind around. But first you have to understand that quantum mechanics tells us there's not really such a thing as empty space. Even in a vacuum, ultra-tiny particles can be found constantly coming into existence for extremely short periods of time. Boop, pop in, boop, pop out. That's what I call it. Now, although these particles are quickly annihilated when they collide with a corresponding antiparticle, like antimatter, they nevertheless exist, and in the moment when they do exist, they seemingly emerge, quote unquote, out of thin air. So there have been several masters throughout history, and we're going to go over it eventually on this show. I am going to cover it. There have been many masters. In fact, the people that have complete physical mastery over themselves and the world, such as Brother Yeshua, can create something from nothing. I've been thinking about this quite a bit. I know that we are surrounded by molecules and we can create things with our minds. We just have to know how to manipulate the energy. And I have had conversations at length with people that have PhDs in physics and quantum mechanics. And I guess, what if it is possible? What if tachyons exist? And what if time is made possible because of particles, called tachyons? It's something that's posited in Star Trek quite often, especially in the new series Discovery, Star Trek Discovery. So if tachyons exist, what if we can speed up the tachyons and speed up the time in which that object comes to us, and it seems to, boop, appear out of nowhere in our hands, such as a burrito or red licorice. Two things I wish I had right now. Okay, only the red licorice I wish I had right now. A burrito I can go make in an hour when I'm done recording the show. But I don't know. I want you guys to think about it. Think about this, because as we go up into the fifth dimension, we are going to have our minds freed from all the negative stuff and the dross and the negative patterns, which we discussed yesterday. And as we let things fall away and all of our emotional junk is cleared out and all of our mental chatter of the monkey mind is cleared out, and after we have been able to let go of the subconscious patterns and programmings that have existed in our bodies and our long-term Akashic records throughout all of our lifetimes, as well as our genetic code DNA from our family lines, after all the stuff that's cleared out that creates the dualistic patterns that inhibit our lives from becoming everything they can be. Once we clear all of that out, all the dross is gone. In alchemy, when you clear out the dross, what you have left is pure gold. And that's why we're entering the golden age, actually. We are entering an age called by the Maharishis and the yogis and the true spiritual masters of India. They have said, we will enter the golden age at the end of this Kali Yuga. And this is March 16th as I'm recording this. Probably by the time you hear to be officially March 17th. So happy St. Patty's Day, guys. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, think about this. Think about it. Like, what would you be able to do with your mind if you no longer had to think about reacting to the way other people are treating you, or imagining what other people are thinking about you, or reacting from a gut instinct level to circumstances of your life? What if you didn't have patterns that held you back anymore? What if your mind was now free to function in a way that it could only think in a positive mode because negativity doesn't exist anymore? In the world of duality, we have positive and negative, but in the world of the fifth dimension, the golden era, the 1,000 years of peace that we're heading into right now, maybe it's 10,000 years of peace. We have to create it with our minds, what we want, as a collective whole. God created the world and then broke off millions and billions of shards of himself to create little people. And that's us. We're like little gods broken off the piece of the big God. And we were shattered, and we had to make ourselves whole again. And we had to make ourselves divine masculine and divine feminine in one body again. And we had to live through the worlds of polarity and duality. But what if we're not at polar opposites with each other and at war with ourselves inside our minds and inside our hearts and our emotional bodies? But we just step out of the negative part and into a much lighter atmosphere. What will our minds be able to create? I think time travel, flying cars, replicators where money won't even be a thing anymore. I think everything is going to just be worked out. I mean, what if we're going to be able to spend 3, 4, 5 hours a day meditating in constant purification of heart, mind, body, and soul and thoughts? We're getting there. We're heading there. We're heading there right now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you guys some stuff about the Schumann resonance. You might have noticed for yourself in the past 24 hours. You're going to love this. Okay. There was so much written about the activity of the Hertz frequency of the Earth that this is really long. So today is the 16th, and I'm 5 hours behind what is called UTC time. So if it says 13 UTC, imagine it's like 5 hours ahead of me. So 8 a.m. Ecuadorian or Eastern time, US, is when this stuff started. All right. We started off with very, very strong activity and progress, according to disclosure.it. In the last 24 hours, there have been several isolated peaks, but at this moment, a massive variation of amplitude is taking place. The first peak was at 21 UTC yesterday, which is a time, not the amplitude. It was started at 30 hertz. The second significant reached at 69 hertz. And then we went right up to a powerful peak that reached 130 hertz. If you've been paying attention to this show and you've been listening every day, what does this mean? The fifth dimension begins at 40 hertz, and yesterday we were at 130 hertz. If you are catching the wave, dude, if you're hanging loose and you're raising your vibes and you're catching the wave with the planet and the plasma energy being blasted at us from the sun, which is now a portal, which is probably why it looks different. We are being blasted with this energy, 130 hertz, 90 hertz above the bottom, lowest possible rung on the ladder of the fifth dimension. It goes on. So at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, it was totally white. Once the amplitude went skyrocketing to 130 hertz, it never returned below 50 hertz for hours, for almost 4 hours, actually. And then it says, an hour after that, there's even another note. It says, in this last hour or so after the previous update, we kept seeing a very powerful activity while the amplitude kept the level above 50 hertz. We've seen another powerful peak at 90 hertz, and it's likely that the strong activity may continue, and we're going to update the page later on. Well, 4 hours later, they updated the page. They said, we had a peak to 105 hertz just after posting the last update. And then like 45 minutes later, they had 70 hertz registering on their meters, and then 50 hertz. And it says it seems that the activity is slightly decreasing, but it has been impressive. It has been an impressive day in the past 24 hours. Something is quite surely happening at the planetary level, says the scientist updating the page on the Schumann resonance. Something is quite surely happening at a planetary level. And then it goes on to say, as we are witnessing today and the past weeks, several massive activities, it is likely that the solar system, now that doesn't mean just our sun and the earth, that means all of our planets. I'm including Pluto. Poor little Pluto. He's really a planet, right? We're going to include him, okay? The whole solar system is getting well inside the photon belt. What is a photon, you might ask? A photon is a packet of light. Light contains information. It's both a particle and a wave, which is why the ancients, when they drew their suns, those really cool suns with the faces on them, the ray that comes out of the sun at the top and the bottom and to the east and the west is solid, and it's there's no waviness to the way the wave is, or the ray is drawn, because that means light is a particle. And the wavy ones in the middle, so there's 4, and then there's another additional 4 that's wavy. The wavy ones mean that light is a wave. It's a wave form, as well as a solid particle form. This is a very deep esoteric secret that's been hidden in plain sight since well before the Illuminati was a glint in the eye of Galileo or whoever started it. No one knows who started the Illuminati, but it was suspected he was a part of it. Back before the Illuminati was evil, because it wasn't back in the day. It was just a group of men that wanted to keep the esoteric secrets alive, the things that had been gleaned from true magic alive, the deep, powerful metaphysical secrets that up until recently we were not allowed to disclose to the world openly. A couple hundred years ago, we would have been killed for this knowledge. The knowledge I'm giving you on this very show. A lot of stuff hidden in plain sight. Even in the Bible with all the numbers. 40, 32, 26, 144,000. All these numbers mean something. They're not arbitrary. In Hebrew, every letter has a character value that's assigned to a number, and every word has a numerical value assigned to it. And there can be a hidden message inside a hidden message. Like if I said to you 40 and you're a master mason, you know that I could also easily have said father and meant the number 40, because the Hebrew word for father is Aben, which is corresponding to the number 40, for example. 26 is also along those lines of father, and I can't remember. I got to look it up. And I might have that backwards because of my dyslexia. That's always super fun. But there's a lot of hidden secrets, and they're all coming out now. Because we are winning. We have won. Hashtag love has won. We are in the fifth dimension right now. If you're riding that wave of light, light is a wave and a particle. Light is a wave. From your brain waves come. From your hands, waves of energy come. What if you solidify it and your hands become a replicator and you don't need a machine anymore? And just like Brother Yeshua before us, who said, you can do all of this and more. And he was talking about his miracles. He turned water into wine. That's a fun trick, especially at parties. But he also fed the masses, did he not, with loaves and fishes? He was only brought a little bag, a basket of loaves of bread and a basket of fishes, and he was able to feed thousands of people with that. It makes no sense except for the fact that his hands were natural replicators, because he knew the secret, because he could see with his mind the inner workings of the universe, of the higher dimensions, and he brought those frequencies down into the third dimension over 2,000 years ago. That's why when I say he was Master Jesus, he was an avatar. Brother Yeshua is an avatar, because he had complete, total control and mastery over the physical world in the 3D, because he was literally his super consciousness embodied in his consciousness and in his physical body. And that is what we are all striving for, guys. This is why this is so important. We're beyond the time of going, the ascension can't be real, this is BS. No, it's real. It's really real. 100%, I guarantee it. And now science is backing that up. Yeah, but us metaphysicians always knew that, eventually science would catch up to us. They're only 4,000 to 6,000 years behind us. Brother Yeshua wasn't the only one who was able to create or replicate things in his hand. There is a series of books that eventually I will go over with you. I haven't read them all. They're so long and extensive, and it's like $200 to get a copy of all these books. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's like $100. It's very expensive though. And I had them, and then I lost them, and some of them I've been able to find online on PDF form. And there's a lady called the Dove Lady, and she does read them, and the names of the books are The Life and Teachings of Masters of the Far East. It's about a group of scientists who heard rumors and stories that intrigued them and sparked their imagination so strong that they felt an internal pull and desire to go to the Himalaya mountains. And when they did this, they discovered a group of masters in the Himalayas that live there. Even today, I'm sure they're still there, because they go back and forth between dimensions. These are men that never died physically. There was no proof of their death. There's no record of their actual death. No one knows where they died. For example, Jesus, he's there sometimes. He comes down to the Himalaya mountains. It's probably stuck in the fifth dimension. It's probably not in the third. Actually, this part of the Himalayas, or Himalayas, however you want to say it. Buddha, Mother Mary, Brother Yeshua, a lot of spiritual masters have been seen there. And the other people who aren't quote unquote famous, that are just spiritual masters, inside the mountains, they have systems and tunnels of light. I'm going to go over all this. But if you want to look up the Dove Lady on YouTube, or just look up The Life and Teachings of Masters of the Far East, Book 1, Chapter 1, and she's got a lovely voice, and it will intrigue you. You will hang on her every word. It is so interesting. She reads almost every single one of those books on her YouTube channel. She did this out of love and goodness in her heart. She is a deep metaphysician like me. She's a lot, like over 20 years older than me, I think. She is maybe not that old. Maybe she's 15 years older than me, but she's in her 60s or 70s for sure. And she has a retirement, and all she does is she reads deep knowledge, esoteric knowledge for the masses. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And if you're listening to this, you are ready, my dear. Yeah, I start talking in rhymes when I start channeling God. Anyway, that was my news, you guys, about disclosure.it from the Schumann Resonance, the information about the replicators. Remember, as above, so below. As below, so above. Everything is coming to fruition. Gene Roddenberry's universe, we're going to have it almost identical. Almost identical. And I'm not talking about the people. I mean, I'm sure that 20 years from now, Spock and Kirk aren't going to be, Captain Kirk he's not going to be like the sexist pig he was back in the 60s when this first aired on TV. He's so full of himself. I think he was a narcissist, which helped him get pretty far into space in the storyline. That's not what I'm talking about when I say the Gene Roddenberry universe that we want to create. What I'm talking about is the knowledge and the technology that he saw. Now, I don't know if that means he is a time traveler. Maybe he used his consciousness to go forward in time. Maybe he remote viewed the future. Maybe he comes from another planet. I mean, there's been so much speculation about him. Gene Roddenberry, the creator and writer of the original Star Trek series. And he's the one that had all the ideas for all the other series as well. Star Trek Discovery, I don't think was his. This is something that's new. And it takes place before the time in which Captain Kirk rescued Captain Pike, which is in the first episode of Star Trek that ever existed. So, I told you guys I'm a big Star Trek fan, but this is why. Because the technology that's in this, most of it has come true already. And the rest is just a matter of time, baby. I'm going to go over in the next week probably more information on the time travel articles that just came out with the world's first quantum computer that now is in existence. They have been able to go back in time or move time backwards within the bubble in which this quantum computer exists. So I have to read up more on it, try to understand it before I can explain it. I might just have to read directly from the article. It is very deep stuff, man. This is like, this technology is beyond anything any of us thought. I mean, when I was a kid, I thought we were going to have flying cars because, hello, the Jetsons. I also thought we were going to have contact with alien life because, hello, the Flintstones. But there's still a part of me that wishes I could get a rolly car that I use my feet to pedal because that'd be hilarious. But I don't really want that. But I always wanted to build that when I was a kid. Like the Flintstones, an open air car with just a little tarp over the top. I mean, seriously, you could probably make one of those in a matter of 4 hours on the weekend as a hilarious joke, right? Yabba dabba doo. Okay, guys, I am going to come right back after this message, and I have another Reverend Marion Jones story for you tonight. Her Grandma Marion, as I knew her. And tonight we are going to talk about Doriel again. Grandma Marion and Doriel. This is an incredible story. You're going to want to stick around and you're going to want to hear it. It's really positive and happy, which is what we need after last week's story and also after last night's episode. So we're going to bring our energy up, up, up. Catch the wave, man. because now we are sitting on top of the world. That the Beach Boys had no idea that that song would become so much more relevant on a deeply metaphysical, vibratory level when they wrote it. And yet we're here. I'll be right back. Hey you, have you ever thought about having your own podcast like me? Was it even a New Year's resolution? For me, it sure was. But as I've been looking into this for months, I was daunted. There's so many questions I had. When I was trying to get this off the ground, I was wondering, how do I record the episode? How do I get it across all the platforms? How do I get my podcast on Apple Podcasts when I don't even have an iPhone? How do I get it onto Spotify and all the other places? How do I get people to listen? And how do I make money from my podcast? How do I edit it? Oh my God, I had all these questions and I was so confused until I discovered the simple answer is Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and it is ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcast. All you need to do is record it. You don't have to go out and look for people to advertise on your show. They help you. So basically what I like about podcasting is I don't have to have a video of myself. You don't know if my hair is dirty or if I'm still in my pajamas or even if I'm wearing makeup. Haha. And it's so easy. I could do this from the comfort of my own home in my living room using this amazing app right from my cell phone. So easy, right? So if you've always wanted to start your own podcast and make money, by the way, doing it, please go to anchor.fm/start. That is anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters that are already using Anchor. Again, that's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast and I can't wait to favorite you. Woohoo! Let's be broadcast podcast buddies. I'll see you there. Master Del Rio created his mystery school in the mountains of Colorado in the United States in 1963. And sometime in the late 70s, I believe, mid to late 70s, is when, as you recall from a few weeks ago, Reverend Marion Jones, who at that time I don't believe was a reverend, she was just Marion Jones, married to George Jones, who was a Maytag repairman. He repaired washing machines and dryers for the Sears Corporation. And they lived somewhere in the South. I want to say like Oklahoma, but I can't remember the state. She might not have ever told me, to be honest. And she grew up in West Virginia. In the White Witch of West Virginia episode, that is about Grandma Marion when she was a little girl. And she was a family friend of my late husband. And while we were still together and still married, we visited her many, many times, and she told me stories that just fascinated me. I mean, she was so intensely amazing as a human being. She shocked the living daylights out of me, like with practically everything that came out of her mouth, every story that she told me. I had to keep picking my jaw up off the floor. She was just incredible. So I've been for about 2 months now giving you a new Grandma Marion story every week. So a few weeks ago, I talked about how she was in her kitchen and she got a message from Spirit to immediately pack and go to the train station. And when she got there, a man all dressed in white handed her a ticket. And he didn't say a word to her. And she didn't know where she was going, but she trusted the universe. She trusted God, and she trusted the spiritual master, Avatar, that called her. She didn't even know who it was. She got to Colorado. She still had to wait a few more hours to discover it was the master Avatar, Doreel. And Doreel, also, if you recall from the past few Saturdays, when I have put the show about Grandma Marion out, you'll remember that he was the one that discovered and found, he didn't discover them, but he found the original tablets, the emerald tablets of Thoth the Atlantean, or Hermes Trismegistus. Trismegistus being the thrice-born man is what that means, Trismegistus. Master Doreel, he in the 1920s spent a great deal of time in Tibet. He had traveled extensively throughout the world. I don't know where he got his money. Grandma Marion did mention that she had no idea where he got his money. Perhaps he was an alchemist. Perhaps he knew how to replicate things like gold with his hands. It's worth considering. It's worth dreaming about, that we could be so great someday, that we could be masters of our world and universe, and as a collective whole we could create peace, love, and joy on the planet, and have everything we ever need and desire at our fingertips. Just a few moments of thought, a few seconds of silence. I don't know. I'm really curious. Maybe he did have a job. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't looked into him, to be honest. All I know about Master Doreel is what I've read in the esoteric teachings from him that I read that were in the spiritual lessons that Grandma Marion allowed me to read. You have to be pure mind and heart. You have to be checked out before you are admitted into this mystery school. I'll tell you on another day why I was allowed in, or at least while I was allowed to read the lessons without being admitted officially. So that's a story for another day. But the way that Grandma Marion, the way that she entered into this mysterious man's life and house and mystery school, and she lived in his mansion with him for years. And George and the girls moved to Colorado and they got a place. And they just waited for her, and she would come home from the lessons and come live with them on the weekends, I guess. So it's all pretty intense. My whole episode yesterday was about trusting the universe and how God always has your back. What if you trusted the universe completely and you know that God always has your back, and you start to make not decisions out of fear, but decisions out of love and a deep connection with the one will? What if you start trusting in an even greater way, the way that Marion did? She lived a very amazing life, but it was pretty quiet. No one really knew what was going on. To the outside eye, she just looked like an old lady living in a house by herself in Arizona, in Kingman. No one really knew the stuff that I'm telling you. Outside of the family, not outside of her daughters and outside of my ex-husband's family, no one really knew her. She wanted people to know. I mean, she did write a book about her life, and she had the manuscripts in her closet, and she said that she needed time to get the manuscripts out and put it in a box, and she didn't know where it was, and that one copy was she had twin girls, and one of them had a copy, and that my next visit to her, I was supposed to write the book. I was supposed to edit her book and then publish it. And then I was going to be responsible for the information. But unfortunately, she died, and I didn't see her after that conversation again. And when I brought it up to my husband's family, they acted like I never even met her. And they refused to even bother to make the 5-minute phone call to ask, by the way, do you have this manuscript? We have a publisher. I wasn't going to do it for the money. I was going to give the money to her daughters, actually. I just wanted the knowledge out there. So I gathered as many stories as I possibly could from Grandma Marion over the years that I knew her. But they're all in my mind. I never wrote anything down. I didn't record anything. I didn't know. Knowing now what I know then, I mean, if I knew then what I know now, I would have spent a lot more time in Arizona. I would have recorded it all. Hindsight is always 2020. You always have perfect sight when you're in the future looking back at the past, right? When you see the greater, grander picture of things, that's when you see everything clearly. But when you're in it and you're going through it, you don't, You just don't know. You just don't know sometimes. So after years of Doreel, and I don't remember how many years, honestly, she might have said, she might not have said, she just said when her time with Doreel had come to a close, he called her, she'd finished the lessons, and he called her into his office. And it was really mysterious because he invited George as well, her husband. And he shut and locked his office door behind them, invited them in, come on in, sit down. And they noticed in the center of the room a very giant, old antique crate. It was really dusty, really dirty. And Grandma Marion told me it was very strange and unlike this man, who was not really obsessed with cleanliness, but everything he insisted be kept clean from dirt, because that keeps you clean energy-wise as well. He always insisted on his environment being kept clean. So he invites her and George in. He says, I want you to come tonight, and he set a time, and I need George here too. And she was beside herself, like, this is another one of those unprecedented moments with Master Doreel behind closed doors that the other students didn't partake in. They didn't have the privilege. She did. She was a highly advanced spiritual being, though. I mean, he called her by telepathy and she came. The other students probably found him in the phone book, probably saw an ad in the newspaper. So they had a very strong bond. In fact, on one particular day, he said, we knew each other in heaven and we are really close. Like we, over the eons, have been friends. And she knew this to be true. And she trusted him implicitly. And it was very warranted. It was good for her to trust because he was a trustworthy and honest man of integrity. He was an avatar, a master. Avatar, spiritual master. So on this particular night, they came in and he said, "Oh, please sit down. And he said, "I'll be right back." And he goes out of the room. And he comes back and he had something. I think he had another box. I think he had a box is what she said. It was a box. It wasn't like a paper bag. It was a box. Okay, yeah, I'm asking her. She's here with me. I always connect with Grandma Marion on these days because she wants these stories out there so badly because they're so amazing. She just said, I want to keep the magic that is life, the wonder that is life, real in your minds. She says, I want you to recapture it if you've lost that internal magic and wonder you had as a child with my stories. This is why. She says, this is why I'm having Elaine to tell you. Okay. Thank you, Grandma Marion. She's so pleased. Oh, boy. I can't see when I am in the presence of the spirit. I can't see with my eyes the person, but I do in my mind's eye. If I close my eyes, I see them perfect, like they're right in front of me. I see with my third eye. Oh, she's just pleased. She's just pleased as punch. She's smiling at me, and her fingers are interlaced, and she's just like, ooh, she's so happy. So Jareel left them alone in the room with this wooden crate that was appearing like not quite ancient, but extremely old, antique crate. With the nails sticking out of it like slats. Imagine like wooden slats. And with writing that had been stamped on the side, but it's so long ago that it's all faded and completely unobtainable. You can't read it. It was unlegible. I'm like, ineligible? No, unlegible. Okay, sorry. So she did notice that there were like pieces of what looked like ancient yellowed paper sticking out of the cracks. There were little cracks between the wooden slats. And it was just super curious. This is one of those things that she was just, this is not like him. This is very weird. Why is there an antique and very dusty and dirty box, crate, handmade crate from God knows when? Why? And it was just, so he leaves for like 5 or 10 minutes and he comes back with a box. And this is mysterious too. It's not like him just to have a random box laying around, like a cardboard box. And he puts that on his desk and they're sitting there. There's like, I think she said it was like a couch and 2 chairs or 2 couches, something like that. She didn't quite explain the arrangement, but I know that there's like a couch and George and her sitting side by side together on the couch, filled with curiosity and wonder, but also a little like trepidatious, like what is in that crate. Now, as you recall, I think it was last week or the week before, there was a matter of a very evil book he wanted her to read. So you could see her trepidatiousness. You could see that would be something, because after that other day that he called her in and locked the door behind her and said, I'm going to give you something that the other students aren't allowed to see. And it was something that was evil, because he wanted her to know the dark side as well as the light side. You could see where she would be a little trepidatious, where she'd be a little timid, a little scared of what might be in that crate. And that crate is ancient. That old book was ancient too. So, I mean, ooh, she was like, I don't know, George, I don't know about this. I don't know. He is insistent that his space is swept out and dusted daily. You know, the vacuum is run in his room daily, sometimes twice a day. Like, just, he's very clean and very neat. And now we're before us looking at this crate covered in dust and dirt. So he gets was it crowbar? Yeah, so a crowbar. He also had a crowbar with the box, and in the box he had something, and then in his hand he also had a crowbar. So he shuts and locks the door behind him. It's just the three of them in the room, and he says, what I'm about to show you guys and share with you guys right now, you cannot tell the other students. This would surely make them jealous, and I don't need infighting in my organization. This is for you, Marion, and for you, George, because Marion, you have now completed the lessons that you have come to me to complete. And she's like, what's in the box? We're so curious. Quit doing this to us. What's in the box? He's like, I'm going to show you. You'll see. And he didn't, and then that was all he said for like the next 10 minutes. He set to work, taking each slat carefully off the crate with a crowbar, peeling back the layers of the box, and he set neatly to the side every slat off the top of the box. Then he reached in to the aged yellow paper covered in dust, and it was making a mess, and he didn't even care. And then he started throwing it into the corner. And Marion's like, aren't you concerned about the dirt and the dust? Why we should get a trash, you know? And he just looked at her, and he had a twinkle in his eye, and he kind of smiled at her and winked a little bit. And she's like, oh, this is weird. He's acting weird. This isn't like Doreel that I know. This is not the serious, deeply serious man that I normally know. He was getting to be downright giddy, like a little kid. Like a little kid at Christmas time, unwrapping what he hoped to be his favorite new toy. And he got down like over halfway through the layers of paper, the shredded paper, the hand-cut shredded paper that was yellowed and frayed and old. And he pulled out another box. And he had to open that box too. And that had even more layer of paper inside. And what he pulled out there was a bottle. Ready? Wait for it. It was a bottle of champagne from the 1800s from the Loire Valley in France. He held the bottle over where he had put the slats and the paper in the corner, and he just blew off all the dust. And he says, this is what we're going to do tonight. And he handed George the bottle. And he went over to the box he had brought up when he grabbed the crowbar. He went over to his desk and he got that box. And out of that box, he pulled out 3 champagne flutes. Beautiful champagne flutes that Marion had not seen in the house. As a matter of fact, Doreel was particularly known for being a sober man who never touched drugs and never touched alcohol. And yet here he is with a 100-plus-year-old bottle of champagne from the Loire Valley in France. And Grandma Marion was beside herself. She was so, what? She was so giddy and happy. She herself didn't drink very much. Occasionally, only at celebrations would she have. And he said, there is a time for everything in this world, and today is a time for us to celebrate because you have completed your training with me. Today you become my peer. And so he went ahead and opened. He had a corkscrew in the box and took that out, and he opened the champagne, and they all had a little mini conversation about how it's probably not gonna taste very good because it's so old. Like maybe it's vinegar, maybe it's, I don't know. But when he pulled out that cork, she said it felt pliable as if it was brand new, and it was unlike any cork she had ever seen in the 1970s or before. And this is from the 1800s. And she started to think and started reeling in her mind, in the back of her mind, like, my God, to have something imported from France is very expensive. To have a bottle of wine, like he must have won this at an auction. How else could he have gotten this? No one saw any shipment coming into the house. No one knew about this. And she started to look around, like, how did he get this? Where did he get this from? How did he do this? She was there all the time. There's no way. There was no delivery people. They lived out in the middle of nowhere. Things had to be arranged to be delivered. And how much was this anyway? $1,000? $2,000? More? All this stuff started, wait a minute, where did this come from? And she started looking around. She said there was a closet. This might have been in the back of his closet or at the bottom of his closet inside of his office possibly. But she had never seen this before. But no, his closet would have been clean. He was a very clean man. He insisted on everything, including his closets, always be clean. So where did this dusty, dirty box come from? He said, this is one of the last bottles, if not the last bottle, of this kind of champagne. We are now going to taste 100 years ago what their champagne tasted like. Are you ready? And so he poured them each a glass, poured himself a glass, and he congratulated Marion for completing her training. And they toasted. Maybe they toasted to life and love and the esoteric truths that are before us. Metaphysical knowledge, maybe to the future metaphysicians of the world. We'll never know what they toasted to unless we access the Akashic records, which at this moment I cannot. I do not have this power yet, not this gift yet. Maybe someday we'll know exactly what they said during this remarkable toast. But she did tell me when she took that first sip of champagne, it was so bubbly. It was effervescent more than any soda in 1979 or whatever year it was. She said it was pure heaven. She didn't even like to drink. She didn't even like champagne or alcohol that much, or even wine. And she said it was the most incredible flavor. It was so, she had had wine, she had had, champagne before, but this was pure magic. She tasted this champagne on her lips, and it was incredible. It brought tears to her eyes. It was so good. And they were so thrilled, and it was fruity and light and perfect and not vinegary at all. It was like it had just been made, but it was over 100 years old. And they were like, no wonder the Loire Valley in France is so well known for their artistry in making fine wines and champagnes and all that. She couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe it. So they finished the bottle together. And he asked her a question. And I think I'm going to tell you on another day what that question was. It was a very important proposal he made for her. I don't know if I'm going to tell you next week or in a couple weeks, but you're going to hear the story, the full story. But that's for another day. It's for another time. Perhaps in a week. So, that's your Grandma Marion's story. That included a story about the illustrious Avatar, Doreel. It's all pretty special. I'm thrilled. I'm tickled pink that I met Grandma Marion and that I'm able to regale you guys of the same tales that she regaled me, with which she regaled me, because these stories fill me with love and light and hope and the joy of simple living that can be had when you recognize the magic in each moment. And the spirituality in each second. I hope that this story has filled you with hope and wonder. The way it has me, for sure. And the Schumann resonance, I am sure, is just going to keep getting better and better. Tomorrow, by the time you hear this, will be the 17th. And the biggest wave will be coming around the 20th. So between now and then, it's just going to increase. And around the 20th to 21st, you're not going to feel like yourself anymore. But that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. We're going to go up, 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 well into the fifth dimension. After the 21st of March, I have a feeling there is no turning back. Drop the shadow today, baby, because all you are is light. From now on. From here on out. We are all on our way. We are well on our way to being able to do all this and more. All this being everything, every miracle created by the Avatar, Master Jesus. Brother Yeshua. Sananda. Are you ready? Are you ready yet? Is your third eye open? Because you're going to want to be awake and able to see this. Whatever light comes your way, whatever ascension flu symptoms come your way, just accept it. Accept the light. Say out loud, I accept the light. Say it right now. I accept the light and the knowledge coming my way. I accept it. Acceptance is the key to not having resistance and drag and not creating more physical symptoms that are uncomfortable in your body. So you might get a little uncomfortable, a little woozy or nauseated, or a little itchy on the skin. or tinnitus. That's the big one. A little bit of pain, tinnitus, headaches. These are the symptoms this week. But you know what? We're doing something that no one's ever done before in the universe, in the history of history. Raising third dimensional bodies up into the 5D world. Directly. And all of the other worlds are watching us. In fact, this morning I did see a UFO, a really big, bright, beautiful, triangular-shaped craft, and all I saw was the white lights around it. And on Secure Team 10, there was in some gray clouds this week a woman, I think possibly she's speaking German, I couldn't tell. Her and her son had seen the same thing that I saw this morning. Is the same kind of, exactly the same kind of craft. What I saw wasn't moving. Hers was moving. Mine wasn't moving. It was just stationary. And I watched it for as long as I could, and I ran to the bathroom because I had just woken up out of bed, and I had a feeling to go look out the window. By the time I got out of the bathroom, the spacecraft was gone. Darn it, I forgot to take a picture. I was going to show you guys. Well, they'll be back. They didn't come for me, though. I know it. I feel it might have been Arcturian. I feel that they were sending us love and light. They're beaming the light from the portal of the sun directly to the planet. They're helping us raise the Schumann resonance. Schumann resonance is only recording from the ground up. Now, what we were being sent from the top down, I don't even know. I do know that I've been extremely positive and happy. Getting giddy, getting happy, having a hard time sleeping. Forgetting to eat, but having a whole bunch of energy anyway. Forgetting to breathe, but not keeling over. I mean, I've noticed that I'm different. I'm changing. I know my body's less dense. I mentioned my hair and nails are growing faster. I don't know what that's about, but it's weird. Amber White this week said that she feels like she's trying to ground herself and at the same time raising up to her 8th chakra that's way above her head, 18 inches above your head. Keep focusing on that. Keep asking your spiritual team to connect with you. Don't ever stop being connected to your spiritual team, your higher self, your holy guardian angel, and, well, the goddess or the god or the one will to good, universal life force, whatever you want to call God, energy, the divine. Keep your connections, guys. Keep them solid. Always be connected, because that's going to rapidly change you. Rapidly. Keep connected to that higher chakra, the 8th chakra, 18 inches above your head. Just focus all your energy there. Do your meditation on the sun. Go back to my episode on the sun, our solar brother. I have a meditation the sun gave me directly during a massive portal shift. When the light was coming down to the earth, the plasma was being beamed our way. It was so powerful, and I looked directly into the sun when that happened, that it made me deaf for 30 minutes. And I could not hear out of the light was so bright in my eyes, my ears stopped working. Maybe because I'm dyslexic, I don't know. Pretty crazy stuff, though. You guys, we're here. We're going to get more and more into this. The Kali Yuga will be over. We will be entering the new age of light, the golden era, the golden age, the dawning of Aquarius. The war and fighting and negative polarity, duality of Kali, that energy will be gone. In 4 days, we enter a new golden era, a new Kali Yuga, or a new Yuga, sorry. Yuga means age, sorry, Kali was Kalima. We are entering a new Yuga, new age. A new age. Not the old new age. That was the old religion come to light again. I see a time in which we honor the goddess and the god together again. We went through thousands of years in which the female god ruled and then was suppressed and called evil, and only the male god ruled. Or people worshipped the female god, and then people worshipped the male god. Now I see a time in which nobody worships God anymore, but we are coming into our awareness that we are gods. And that we have the divine masculine and the divine feminine within us. It's without and within, and it's all around. I see this age is coming. We're on the verge of it. And the old-time religion is going to be renewed in a way different way. No one will use magic and power for personal gain, because we will have all gained by being in the fifth dimension. But for now, that's all I got to say about that. And I'm signing off with peace and love and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you.